I used to live in Chisinau and I've spent a lot of time in Moldova. But for me, just starting out, you'll see I'm not going to use any slides today. Okay. If I could be there in person with you, I would much prefer it. But I will ask if I turn my view to gallery view and I just want to see faces and be able to talk to people. And so if you can, if you're naked, put on some clothes. If you're eating, I don't care. That's fine, whatever. But I would like to see everyone here because that's how I interact. And so, yeah, if you're on a walk, um, then great, be on a walk. I do not care. But I just want to be able to connect with you guys, okay? So I'm going to give a little introduction because I found if I just start talking about whatever things everyone can gloss over because we don't have a connection, right? Um, my name's Cameron. My first time coming over to Moldova was in 2015. And I came over to Moldova. I have friends there and came and spent some time, maybe a couple weeks. And then I've come over multiple times. So all in total, I think I've mentored over 200, maybe 250 startups in Moldova. And I've worked with DreamUps and many others to mentor and help startups. And I fell in love with Moldova. I ended up coming back over when I got married in 2016. My wife and I came and we spent our first several months in Moldova. We lived right downtown by Andy's Pizza on Strada Columna, and it amazing time. I've probably been 10 times. And so, anyways, Moldova is very close to my heart, and it's part of why I continue to agree to help with these sessions and to give of that time is because I truly believe that Moldova is one of the very best places in the entire world to start a business. It's not one of the best places to have customers, right? And so that's part of what we'll talk about with scaling today is you can build them. There's amazing talent, amazing people in Moldova, and you have some low costs that are really advantageous, but it's not a good place to have customers. People are cheap. People don't want to spend money. It's not a great market for that. But if you can learn to exist in both places, wow, you can do amazing things. And I've seen so many people do some amazing things. So a little background. How did I end up in Moldova? How did I end up doing anything that I'm doing? Why am I here talking to you guys? So in 2010, 11, um, I started a marketing company, but really where it started was I was really focused on YouTube. So who here's familiar with the word, the phrase YouTuber? What's a YouTuber? Understand what that is? So in 2011, not many people knew what a YouTuber was. We didn't have Mr. Beast. We didn't have, all the other creators that now exist and that people know YouTubers can be very successful. At the time, it was pretty much cat videos, right? That was what was on the internet. It was cat videos and a few people doing funny, silly things. Well, I had a YouTuber approach me and he asked if I would come on as his manager. I had a lot of ideas and I was giving him feedback, kind of like what we were doing at the beginning. And I just said, I think if you did this or this or this, maybe this would work. And maybe if you changed up this in your videos, you'd get more views or more shares or more comments. And so he started doing those things and guess what? It worked. And I was just guessing, right? It was just something that was interesting to me. Well, he asked if I would come on as his manager. And I said, I don't know what it means being a manager of a YouTuber, but yeah, I'll try. So I jumped on with that YouTuber. At the time, he had about 30,000 subscribers. Within a year, we grew him into millions of subscribers. And then his name was Devin Supertramp. Then after that, me and Devin, we launched another YouTuber. Has anyone heard of Lindsay Sterling? She plays the violin. So Lindsay Sterling was another YouTuber. We launched hers, and then we launched another person's and another person's. And then soon I started realizing at the time that I was making no money. I mean that. I took the first year that I worked with Devin on YouTube stuff, and I was making about 17 cents per hour for the first year that I worked with him. but it was fascinating. And I started learning of what makes things go viral, what makes things grow and scale. So at the time I dropped out of school, I focused fully on this. And I said, you know where there is money? I said, companies. And so instead of helping YouTubers, which at the time were not making very much money, I said, let's help companies grow their videos and their social presence. So we started doing it for companies. We did it for ESPN and Turkish Airlines. We did it for Freshpet and Nvidia, um, Happy Socks. One of the last videos that I did before selling the company was with Cristiano Ronaldo. We dressed him up like a homeless guy, and he's playing soccer in the street, and then he gives the soccer ball to a little kid. Has anyone seen that soccer video? So we did all sorts of those. Worked with people all over. Dua Lipa, the musician, we did her first big music video that kind of launched her career. And so it didn't matter whether it was a company, sports, food, YouTube. We took the same principles of why do people share things, why do things go viral, and we applied those to the companies. So that's where I saw my first success. We did over 4 billion views on YouTube, no paid views, organic, real views, over 4 billion. We generated hundreds of millions of dollars in sales for clients. We grew some of our clients from $300 million companies to $5 and $6 billion companies, just from the efforts of the marketing. And so saw a lot of success. I sold that business, and for a little while, I thought, wow, this is nice. I'm retired. This is what everyone dreams about. How fun is this? And it was nice, but I found that it was nice to also have things that you're working on and building and growing and developing. So since then, I've constantly jumped back into projects, and I've done probably 10 to 20 different startups. I've grown companies, I've exited companies, I've helped people scale their businesses. So when I got done with that, I started this process of helping scale a dentist office. Then I've helped scale a landscaping company, a company that does fitness, a bunch of others. And I got really focused and obsessed with what makes a company be able to grow, not just on the marketing side, but also on their operation side. And so I started this other business called Easy Exit. And the idea is that every single person here, you need to have an exit strategy. And the exit strategy is not just an exit strategy to sell the company. You either need to have an exit strategy to sell, or you need to have an exit strategy to exit the day-to-day of the work, right? You have to have an exit plan one way or the other. Otherwise, you will be the operator of your business your whole life, right? How many people, they say, oh, yeah, I own this business. Well, my definition of owning a business is not just on paper that you own all the equity, but that if you are a business owner, it means you own a business that can operate and grow without you. Otherwise, you're an owner operator. You're not an owner. Does that make sense? So for you guys, you're in a really exciting, fun phase of your businesses. You're able to work on a lot of creativity. And I know people are at different phases, but you're in this creative problem solving mode, and you have this excitement and this anticipation of, will this work, and will it grow, and will it be as successful as we hope? And the thing is, we don't know. We hope, we want it to, but there's also a lot of challenges that come in that way. And how many people here, let's say by raise of hands, how many people here are working on your business in some way every day? Okay, pretty much the majority. Um, how many people by raise of hand, if you stepped away from the business and you just quit and stopped, how many people do you think your business would stop also within 1 year? Okay, that's common. That's pretty much for most people, right? So I'm going to talk about two kind of different aspects today. And again, I'm going to give you as much good advice and maybe help you navigate and avoid some problems that I faced. I had a lot of problems and challenges and things I did wrong. And if I can help you guys avoid some of those mistakes, let's do that. So, okay, before we start into that, any questions about that so far? If anything doesn't make sense, I know most of you guys are amazing at English. I never learned Romanian, Russian, Moldovan when I was over there, but let's see, we have one comment. Pull it up real quick. This is a startup stage, too early to be able to step away. False. I mean, it makes sense what you're saying, and I think I get what you're trying to say, but false. I've had many startups where I've started up the process and I've set it in place, and within 1 week, I haven't done anything on that business ever again because I'm able to set up processes and I've hired out people and they're the ones operating it. And so I'll check in from time to time, maybe once a week, once a month, to see how things are going and consult and advise. But you can start up an idea. That's the difference too, right? Sometimes you can have an idea that's a startup, and it doesn't mean you have to execute the idea. Someone else could execute the idea. I could have a brilliant, amazing startup idea, and I could go to Andy and say, Andy, I know you're doing the food app, but I have this idea. I think you should do this. And I could give him the plan and the operations, and Andy can run with that and become a partner in it. But guess what? I don't touch it anymore. So I'm not saying don't be part of your startups, but a startup can be, you can be as involved or as little involved at whatever level. And so that's being facetious, and I'm not trying to be difficult, but just saying you can think of these things in different ways. Startup phase doesn't always mean you have to be 100% involved. So let's talk about two things first. One, I think a lot of you guys are going to be want to know about maybe some ideas, and I'll give you some ideas and tricks on how you can maybe start scaling, let's say, your product, your revenue, scaling your customers. But next, I also want to talk, because this is the best stage possible to start thinking about this, is how do you scale your operations, right? How do you think about that? Because right now, I bet you wear all the hats. You kind of do a little bit of everything, and you know how things work right now, but maybe you haven't thought too much about how your business is going to work as it grows. So when I started my first company, I had this thought where I was like, oh, we're going to be one of the cool startups. We're going to have bean bags in the office. People can come into work when they want. They can leave work when they want. We're just kind of cool, and we just hang out and we do things, right? It was just this idea in my head that's what I saw other startups on TV shows and things. And I went, oh yeah, we want to be cool like that. That was a huge mistake. I found that, without any structure and without any rules, we never knew when to start and when to stop. We didn't have any accountability for who was working on what or when. And we found ourselves staying at the office even longer and having really stressful deadlines and problems and issues. Now, those things can happen regardless, but there's a lot of freedom in structure. Okay. People think of like rules as chains, they're handcuffs, right? The rules, oh, I don't want to follow rules because they make me not free. It's the opposite. How many people, when you're working on something and on your laptop, you have like hundreds of internet tabs opened up at the top because you don't want to forget what's happening, right? How many people experience that? You're working on something and you just keep all these internet windows open all the time. I call that brain static, right? Your brain is like, most people here probably ADHD. They're just really busy, focused on stuff. I, I hate that. And I'm like that. I used to have that all the time, where I have a million things that I think I should be doing. How many people in your startups, every single day, you always are thinking, well, I should be working on this. I should be working on this other thing. I need to be solving this problem. Well, and you even get to the evening and it's bedtime and you're like, oh, I have so much to do. I should also be doing this. I should also be doing this. Does anyone feel like that way sometimes? Okay. There's always something, right? And so you never have an answer of when are you done, right? When are you done? Not just with the whole company, but when are you done today? And the answer is most of you have no idea. You can't turn off tabs in your brain because you don't have a process. You don't have indicators. You don't have structure to your business that tells you when you are done. So I'm going to give you some really basic things. Like this is stuff that I would spend months with a company working on in detail. I'm going to give you some of the cheat codes, some of the simple things that I've learned and developed that can help you with that. And so the first thing we'll do is let's talk about reverse engineering your business. So let me get one volunteer so we can use an example and I'll do it for your business. So Vlada, our walker, Vlada Pascal, would you be a volunteer for us?
Okay.
Okay. So what's your business in 10 seconds?
So we're developing an accessibility app for people in Moldova that have a physical disability or mothers with small babies and strollers, so they can find accessible restaurants, cafes, ramps, and all that kind of stuff in our country.
Awesome. Love it. Makes sense. Okay. So, um, goal. Tell me a revenue goal after year one.
Now,
Yeah.
um,
Let's say 1 year from right now. So July 28th, 2026. What gross revenue, what revenue would you like to achieve for this business?
can you ask somebody else? Because the
Nope.
monetization system is our biggest problem with our
Nope.
stuff.
Nope. Then you need the help most. This is not about having the right answers, anyone, right? Everyone's struggling
Okay,
with this stuff. So we can come up with
60,000 Moldovan lei.
60,000.
Yeah,
Okay, 60,000. How many users do you need to get the revenue for 60,000 Moldovan lei?
100 active users.
100 active users. Perfect. Okay. Have you launched the app yet or the platform yet or still in development?
We're launching it in mid-August.
Mid-August. Okay, so you'll almost have a full year, right? You'll have about 11 months. So now what we're going to do is we break down and we'll say, okay, so in those 11 months, if you were really like equal, which it's not going to be, let's say the first like 6 months, you're doing like 5 people per month. Okay. So from August to September, we want 5 users. September to October, we want 5 users. October to November, 5 users. Maybe then we jump to 10 and at the end we jump to 20. But right, we could figure out those numbers easy. Okay, now what we're going to do is say, well, how do we get those users? So now we say, okay, your core processes of what you offer is you offer, you have to have your website or your app. You have to have partnerships with the restaurants, and the places with accessibility or at least the knowledge of. So that's two different core processes. But now we're backing into the users. So we got to go, okay, well, how are you going to get those users? So let's come up with an idea. So what's the first, maybe Facebook groups with parents that have kids with disabilities? I know those exist. Yeah.
Yeah, we did
What
that already. We joined them.
Perfect. What other places maybe would you find families with disabilities? Are there hospitals or therapy places that are aware of parents that have that situation?
We have organizations. So we already have one platform in Moldova called Motivation MD, and we talked to them and we're kind of collaborating. So they help us get in touch with people with disabilities via email, and we just have a big like a Google form right now that we ask people to fill so we can constantly update our website. So
Yep.
besides the Facebook groups with moms with babies, we have these organizations for people with disabilities where we can find them, make events with and for them, so they can connect with us, know more about our app, and then spread the information.
Okay. So I see maybe three different, just for the example, three different easy options. One is, let's just say, like a presentation. So let's say these hospitals, organizations that help parents where they have kids with disabilities. Let's say one of your activities, and I'm going to call it an activity, not necessarily a job, but let's say this is an activity, and this activity yields customers, it yields users for your platform. So one activity is that you do presentations. Now, we're not going to make that super general. We're actually going to say you're going to write a 30-minute presentation and a 1-hour presentation that you can do at any of these organizations. And the presentation is going to be called How to Improve Your Life as a parent with a child that has disabilities. You know, how to navigate cities as a parent with a child that has disabilities, right? That's going to be the title. And so you go in as a free offering and you say, hey, we do presentations for these organizations, hospitals, therapists, where we teach about this. And what you're doing is you're teaching like a really valuable thing, but you're also letting people know about your app, about your product, that they can use this to help simplify and benefit their life, right? So that's one, presentations. So that would be, who's heard of an SOP? Who knows what an SOP is? Standard operating procedure. If you search SOP, you'll find lots of things about it. But that's what a lot of companies that scale, that's what they have. They have SOPs. So one of your SOPs we just discovered would be an SOP on how to do events or presentations for organizations, hospitals, therapists. And maybe it'd be simple with AI, write out one presentation in general, and then customize one that's just for physical therapy offices, and customize one that's just for hospitals. So let's say for hospitals, hospitals have parents that come in and a child is born, and whether before birth or after birth, they find out that child has a handicap. It has some sort of, you know, a condition, you know, where it has a disability. And so a lot of those parents, they don't know what to do. It's brand new to them, right? So what if some of your presentations is, we do free presentations for parents at hospitals when they find out that their child has been born with a disability. And so we do a free training and a free presentation. And that's a great resource that the hospital might be so happy to have, but it's a great way for you to find new users and show them the value of your product, right? So that's a great SOP. So I would challenge you, you know, you're going to have, what is that presentation? And literally every section, word for word, where not just you, not just Vlada Pascal, but Olga, Sophie, Elizabeth, Addie, you know, Cataline, all of you guys could take that SOP, and for Vlada, you could go to the hospital and you could do the presentation. Make sense? Because guess what's going to happen? If we find out that that activity is a valuable activity, and you go for every activity that we do at, you know, the presentation, if there's 10 parents there, 3 of them end up using our app afterwards. And it might be higher, but 3 of them out of 10. Well, and let's say you do this for 3 months in a row. And now, okay, we've presented to 100 people in 5 presentations. And out of those 100 people, 30 have signed up. Well, now you go, okay, great. All we need to increase our users is we need to do X amount of presentations and present to X amount of people, and that's going to yield this many users. It's very simple. Sometimes we think too digital, and it's more think sales, think direct people to people, right? And so then at that point, Vlada, you could go, well, we want to get to 100 users with only this activity, no other activities. Well, I could hire or get volunteers from Olga, Sophie, Addie, Cataline, Alexandru. These 5 people can go and do presentations at more places. And we're going to onboard, on average, this many users based on how many people we do a presentation for. Great. Guess what? You're scaling your business without it only having to be you, right? You develop the strategy and the product and the process, but when it comes to scaling, you need to have activities that can scale without you having to do it. And another thing I want you to notice, it's not talent-based activities. Now, some people for the presentations, they're probably better at public speaking. Or maybe for yours, maybe where it's a woman and they're more nurturing and loving, they can speak to mothers and make them feel safe. Maybe someone who is a mother that already has children with a disability, maybe she'd be a great person to do presentations, right? But either way, we're trying to focus on an activity that can be scaled no matter who it is, right? So one example of good activities within your business is McDonald's, right? McDonald's, they're not chefs. They're not amazing chefs that trained in France and went to culinary school. They are teenagers. They are people that have never cooked food in their life, maybe, but guess what? It always tastes the same and people get a consistent product because they have systems, right? They can open up a McDonald's and create the same thing and serve so many customers because they have systems, not because they're a talented chef, right? So, same with yours. You don't have to be a talented therapist. You don't need a degree in working with children with disabilities to really scale. You need to create activities and systems that can be done by anyone because that's when you can reach more people. Does that make sense? Okay. So now I'm going to use that example. We're going to break it down into a process for each of you to do the same. So first, you'll start with that end in mind. Maybe it's revenue, maybe it's users, maybe, and there's lots of things, maybe it's we're going to have this many employees, we're going to have this many things. But if you start with, let's say, revenue first, then you can start to work backwards and go, okay, well, how many users? And maybe revenue doesn't come in just one way. Maybe it comes in 4 ways. So we need this much of this much of this much type of revenue. And now what activities to get that revenue? And now instead of hiring people first, now you could go, okay, for my business model, I need to do these activities to get these results. Now you can go, who would be good at these activities? And so now instead of just hiring a marketing person or an operations person, now you can say, you know what? We need to hire moms, right? Moms would be the very best people to do these presentations. And so we know the activity of what's going to get the users and the revenue. We need to hire a mom, and ideally a mom that has a kid with a disability to go do these presentations. That's going to be our best person to do this activity. Now, for someone else, your company activity might be way different. But does that make sense? Where now you can get really focused and go, okay, this is exactly who we need in our business. These are the things they need to be doing. Now, here's the cool part. Now we break it back further. When you get so detailed where you may not bring in all those users in one day, but you could say, I need to schedule 3 presentations for this month. Okay, to be on track for 60,000 Moldovan lei and 100 active users, then this month I need to schedule 3 presentations that have an average of 10 people at each presentation. Okay, great, we know that. How long does it take you to schedule those? Not a whole month. And so now you could go, okay, well, I'm going to schedule 1 per week, right? I'm going to create the presentation and then I'm going to schedule 1 presentation per week of the month of August. Guess what? According to your numbers and what we said, if you do that, you're on track, right? So when Thursday happens and you said, I scheduled a presentation this week, I'm done. You know you're on track to hit the goal that you said. So you can turn off your brain. You can take a break. If you're done at 10 a.m., you don't need to work the rest of the day if you don't want to. Now you could maybe then say, oh, you know what? We could do 200,000 lei because all we have to do is scale this. And I can do that very, very digestible. I know what to do. Go for it. But you can know and have an answer for yourself of when you're done, and you can have a plan. Now, there's other parts of the business. We just talked about one aspect, which would be probably, let's say, marketing or, customer acquisition. Then there's also the app and the platform, right? What needs to happen on that platform to exist so that you can bring on customers and bring on users? So that would be another thing. But you would say, well, what's our goal? In 1 year, and I'll ask you this one, in 1 year, what does your app or your platform look like compared to what it does now? Are there new features, or is there anything different that you hope to have in 1 year versus now?
Still asking me?
Yep.
So in 1 year, we plan to have the premium features, so route planning and job matching for people with disabilities. Now the app would be either free or freemium, but we plan to have a premium version in 1 year too.
Perfect. Okay. So you just answered something there. So right now you'll have your MVP basic features. You hope to have premium features by that time. So that's another thing you'll have to figure out on revenue is maybe the first 6 months you actually don't have revenue because you don't have a paid version or something. So then you have to figure out your revenue part in the last 6 months. That's fine, but we know that now. But the other part is now we're focusing on platform. So we identified one of your core processes for your business to operate and exist is customer acquisition. That's what we're going to call that one. And we have SOPs or processes within customer acquisition. Those are the activities to generate that. Now, another core process is app development, right? And so within the app development, now you're going to say, well, here's the end result. What are the steps we need to do along the way to get there? And so same in your week, you'll go, okay, for customer acquisition, this week I need to schedule one event. Cool. For app development, I need to build out this part of the app, this process. I need to provide the copy to the developer to finish this. And I'm on track. I'm done. We know that that's what we're going to have this one done by here and this one done by here. So makes sense. We're starting to just simplify. So many startups, when you don't think about structure, you're spinning your wheels. You're not getting, we call traction, right? Imagine riding your bike on, an icy lake and it's slippery and the wheels just, and now you put some spikes in your bike and those are your processes and your plans. And wow, you're going to go flying, right? And so you need to start thinking from a very early point. And I would argue it's better, easier, more productive to think about these things now than to think, well, we'll figure out the structure down the road. It's a lot harder to do that. And you waste a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of emotion when you're doing activities that don't actually give results, right? And so here's one other thing. We've come into companies and we'll develop all their SOPs, their core processes. We'll do video trainings. And so we'll train everyone on how to do every part of the business. So if it was Andy's Pizza, we would say, okay, this is a server, this is the dishwasher, the cook, the cleaners. Every one of those will have their own manual. And then we'll make training videos. So they'll say, this is how to mop the floor. This is how we do it here. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, done. This is how we clean under the tables. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, done. So someone that comes on, they can learn very quickly. They can know exactly what they're doing. There's peace in that process. How many times you get hired at a job and you're really stressed out because you don't know how to do the job? You're learning and it takes you weeks, months until you feel comfortable doing the job. Guess what? That's how a lot of companies lose employees because there's no structure. People want to know that they're doing a good job. They want to feel like they belong, that they have purpose, and they also like to know when they're done, right? When can they turn off and they don't have to be stressed about things? So it benefits you and it benefits your employees by thinking through things in structure. The other thing is to be as simple as possible. If I told you, let me get an example. Let's see. Okay. If I said, Olga, here's your company manual. If you can follow all the processes and all the systems in this company manual, you'll make $10 million per year. Okay, that's exciting, huh? But how excited would you be if I said, Olga, here is your company manual. And if you follow everything inside this, you'll make $10 million per year. Which one do you want? Okay. Now, I want you to think about fundraising now and thinking about investors. Which one do you think an investor is most excited about? Do you think they're excited about the company that has tons of people, it's very complicated, or the one that's extremely simple? Both of them make $10 million a year. Which one does the investor want to invest in?
The one extremely simple.
The one that's more simple. So sometimes we also maybe overcomplicate things for ourselves and we think we're making it bigger, better, more. But the best companies are ones that can operate very simply, but effectively. And those are the companies that are very scalable. Because if you told me that this was the strategy and the process to make $10 million a year for a business, well, guess what? Instead of doing the big fat stack of these, I could do, what is that? Maybe 10 businesses in place of one. So why wouldn't I scale this business to $100 million a year with the same effort, the same time, the same people, the same simplicity as what it takes the other one? I could never do it. And so that's where also, I've done probably 10 or 20 startups since. And guess what? I'm not involved in every single one of them. And some of them, I've sold them already because it's a simple process and I've organized it where I can hand this off. So, how many people would like the idea of selling a business someday? Even if it's something you love doing, wouldn't it be fun to sell that business? You get the money, you get the validation, you grew something successful. If you can come up with a system and a process for your business where it's this easy to hand it off to someone, then I could say, Olga, my business makes me $10 million a year. Do you want to buy it? And this is it. It's ready to go. All you have to do is what's in this page. So simple. That's a very sellable business. So another thing I would encourage you is that if you want to not only scale your business for yourself, for your peace of mind, you know exactly where you are, what process, how much revenue. That's great. That's a good business. You're going to be profitable in cash flow. But if you want to make your business 10 times more valuable, have systems. Have it where someone can operate the business without you. And this is a big thing. A lot of people, they don't realize this. When you sell a company, most businesses that buy your company, they'll say, okay, Vlada, you built this great company, Mappable, and we love the product. We love everything about it. But we also recognize that you do pretty much everything. So we're going to buy your company, but we're going to keep you on the company for 3 more years because we don't trust that we can run this company without everything you're doing. So now you're going to do what's called an earnout, right? Is yes, we'll buy your company and we'll pay this much right now, but you're going to stay for 3 more years. And only if the company is successful in these metrics, then we'll pay you the rest of the money. That's really common, guys. That's how most companies are actually sold. Now, the difference, what if my company is already operating without me, right? What if I check in once a week and I give some advice and some strategy, but I built a process that works without me? When I go to sell that company, I can say, look, for the last year, I do this once a week for 2 hours, but the company is operating and running without me. when I sell that business, they don't need me to stick around. They're ready to take over, right? So just know that processes are so freeing in so many ways. And so if I can communicate that to you to get you to think about it. So the last thing I'm going to do here, and then I'll give you a couple little like tips for some marketing things, because some people, they still are focused. They want customer acquisition. So let me just pause here. I don't have a slide for it, so you'll have to take a couple notes. But first, sit down with yourself or with your partners if you have partners, and I'm going to encourage you to do a few steps. First one, what are your 3-year goals and 1-year goals? Not 5, not 10. Most people, you're not doing the same startup in 5 years and 10 years. It used to be that way, but things move kind of fast now. And I think for some of you, if I asked you if you're doing the same thing in 5 years, maybe you'd be like, yeah, I'd like it. And some people would be like, I'll shoot myself. Like I cannot do this, right? So let's think 3 years and 1 year. Even if you don't plan on 3 years, but what does your business look like in 3 years? And when that's the question, what does your business look like? How many people are in your business? What kind of an office are you in? Are you everyone from home, or do you have an office? What do your customers look like? What kind of money are you making in 3 years? You know, what, just visualize it. If you had to visually describe, or let's say you were going to make a movie of what your business looks like, think of it in that way. What does your business look like in 3 years? Next, what does your business look like in 1 year? Right? Little more tangible. That's probably what most of you are thinking. And when you show me your pitch decks, you're showing me a timeline of 1 year, right? What does it look like in 1 year? Then you go, what does it look like in those different quarters of the year? So if your business looks like this 1 year from now, what needs to happen over the next year in order for your business to look like that in 1 year? Right? What would you need to do each quarter to be on track for the 1 year? Then from the quarter, what does this quarter look like? So what does each month in the quarter or each week in the quarter look like to be on track for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, right? So now what does each week look like? Now what does each day look like? And now what you got to figure out and fill in is, that's kind of your timeline. Now we're going to say, well, what's the plan to do it? The last time I came to Moldova, I was there 2 years ago, and I spoke at an event in Dream Ups. And we brought someone up on the stage, and I said, okay, we're going to play a little game. You are now arrested. You're in jail. And I took away his phone and took away his stuff. I said, you're in jail. Now, the only way you can communicate with your employees, your partners, is through letters. You can only write letters. So your business is either going to fail without you, because it was someone said, my business will fail if I don't show up every day and do things, right? You can only communicate through letters or processes, SOPs, and you hand those to your partner, and they need to be able to read those and be able to do the activity, to do the work, right? It's a little scary to think about. But if you could only document it in writing, how would you do that so your company could continue to succeed and grow? So that's one thing we're going to think about now, is how do you document it so it's not just you? Like, you might know it in your head, what do we need to do this quarter, this week, this day? But now we document. So the next step, that's like your timeline, your goals. That helps you get some concrete numbers. Now you say, well, what are the core processes in my business that need to exist for it to operate? Not everything in the world, the core things. Without these, the business does not exist. If we don't have sales, we don't exist. If we don't have our app or our platform, the product, we don't exist, right? The core things. Then underneath that, that's where you get to your SOPs or your key activities. So if sales is a core process, what are the key activities or the SOPs that need to happen for sales to work? And only after you've done all that, then you can start filling in people, and you can know exactly how many people do we need, and what's the budget, and what's this and that. So reverse engineer, work on your businesses. There's a lot of ways to do it, but I would encourage all of you to spend at least 1 hour now to save yourself 1,000 hours later. Make sense? Okay, we will do some questions for this one. And so maybe let's do that while it's fresh. And then at the end, I'll give you some little cheats on, maybe how to make your business a little more viral, how to scale it with customers more. So you can either raise hands, unmute, and we'll ask that way, or type something in the comments if you're shy, or if you just want to, process it in your brain, and we'll do a couple. So let me see if there's any right here. Before SOP, is it important to test each part of the process or go with assumptions? Good question. I think anytime that you can test something, great. But doing is better than perfect. How many people get stuck because we want it to be good? We want it to be perfect. We want it to be good before we start, right? We were talking with where did you go, Grigor, with Better Together or Barter, whatever we end up with. You're saying, okay, we're going to launch this Telegram and we're going to do some of this stuff to kind of see how people respond to it. Maybe just get 20 friends together at the park and do a test with each other of going, if you were to offer skills to someone, what would your skills be? Okay, and everyone goes around and they say, is there anyone here that someone mentioned a skill that you would benefit from, right? The person's really good at gardening and growing strawberries. Okay, I would love to learn how to grow strawberries. What could you trade? And just do it. Just go try. You'll learn lots of things. I think sometimes you go, well, I want the platform to look nice and I want it to be good and I want it to be perfect. It's better to do than to be perfect. So when developing your processes, first and foremost, just write it down, right? Write down for Vlada, write down the presentation of here's the script and the presentation that we would give to a hospital for parents that have kids with disabilities. Then go do the presentation and then go, oh, it would be really good if we changed this and added this, because you get feedback. And so change your SOP, change your process. That's where you, as the founder, that's the most valuable thing that you can do. You are the one in control of changing your activities and changing your processes. But to scale, you need to be able to create something that multiple people can do outside of yourself, right? So Vlada is going to go do the first presentation and then she's going to change it and improve it. Why? Because we want to convert 8 out of 10 parents in those presentations, not just 3 out of 10, right? That's where you make improvements. So earnout is also used to bridge the gap between exit valuations. Yes, agreed. But I will tell you and challenge you that I've sold a few companies now with 0 earnout agreement, with 0 anything else. An earnout agreement is to benefit the buyer because they're trying to mitigate their risk, because they're going, I don't know and trust that this will operate the same without you. But guess what? If you have a full process and you've proven it for a year, that's it. You've proven it. You've shown that it's operating without you. So there's no need for an earnout. And I would argue it's, again, you've made yourself more valuable. Where do you begin documenting when you're overwhelmed, unsure what to document, why it matters, how to do it? This is probably one of the hardest parts. Great question. There's all sorts of like softwares and platforms. I use Google Docs. That's it. Everyone here use Google Docs, right? It's free. It's easy. We know what it is. Another one that I've done that's really fun is TikTok. So let me show you an example. This is a fun little hack that you can all steal and learn from. So here's a client we did, and they do landscaping. And so we created a TikTok profile with all their training videos. And then on these training videos, let me actually find a better one. It would be, 1 second. I want to show you a good example. Okay. So this company, they have workers that come from South America every year on a visa to do landscaping work. So they're doing mowing the grass and helping prune the trees and doing all sorts of jobs like that, running equipment, tractors and things. Every year that those employees come, it's new employees sometimes. And so we created trainings and then translated them into Spanish so that every time that they come, instead of just learning on like reading papers, which like I could hand you this, and if it's simple, that's better. But then what's even better we found is sometimes like video trainings. So watch this. Here is a video on how to use the tiller on the tractor.
Te mostraremos el accesorio de rastrillo de potencia. Primero, comenzaremos explicando cómo conectar el mini cargador al rastrillo de potencia. Asegúrate de estar.
Okay, it's 10 minutes long on that one, but what we did was we created all these training videos and put them onto a private TikTok. So the employee can request to follow the TikTok account. The owner can accept it. And TikTok, a billion-dollar, multi-billion dollar company, is able to host it. You know, it's free, it's easy. And then how many of you, when you do a TikTok, what do? You record it, and each time you push the button, it records a section, correct? It's not just one big video you have to go edit. You can record section by section. So what we do is we write out the SOP, and let's say that SOP has 10 steps, right? How to give a presentation for parents this. Step 1, introduction. Step 2, what are disabilities? Step 3, navigating cities and usability. Step 4, resources. All of those. Now, each time I film, I just talk about one step. Super easy. Guess what? When I'm done filming that training video in like 5 minutes. And there it is. We have a full training video, and it's easy for people to scroll on TikTok and train themselves that way, right? So there's lots of ways to consume that information, but the goal is for it to be simple. And then I would always still write it down on Google Docs in a written version, because that's the easiest way to change, right? Let's say you go do the presentation and now you want to update it. You can go back into the SOP and you can update and make changes that you want to make. So written's always going to be easiest that way. For online learning, our free webinars or equivalent presentations. So to learn about this kind of stuff, is that what you're asking, Olga?
I was thinking about your example of making presentations in hospitals, yes, for parents. Yep. And this is an offline event, but for Perfect. Businesses which are, let's say, courses, online courses, also yep. working with parents. What I see now on the market are all this kind of free webinar, and I'm just trying to understand, is this an equivalent of a presentation which we would do in the hospital, Absolutely. Or this is something else?
Absolutely. So you just identified a new activity that could be very easily related to the same one. So that one's a physical presentation in the hospital with the parents. Now we're guessing that's going to be a really effective way to go direct to the parents and really have high conversion because it's in person, right? Now you could create the same presentation and record it and put it as a free webinar. And so people go to the thing and they sign up and then they go and then you have it auto play. Now that's very scalable, right? Great. It's probably worth having either way. Maybe, but then what you do is you go, okay, well, we're getting this many user signups from the in-person, and we're getting this many signups from the digital. And so then you can determine, yeah, let's scale this more or let's scale this more, right? You start to see the results of those activities, and those are what's going to yield your end goal. And so you then know strategically which one should we focus on more. So yeah, it could be an online webinar is an activity, in-person one. It could be cold emailing. It could be if you're doing, the restaurant one, for Andy, Andy might want to go into all these different restaurants and do a demo, right? And so that's an activity that yields customers. Obviously, they could have a YouTube video, a TikTok account, and then they could do like paid marketing ads where restaurants hopefully see it. I will tell you this. Remember that billboard company I was talking about? We did the presentation and we try to make it personal, right? When I started as on the advisory board of that billboard company, they had 3 billboards. Now they have over 1 million. When they had 3 billboards, they said, we're starting in Las Vegas. They said, in Las Vegas, there's lots of digital screens, and we want to onboard those screen owners onto our platform. So this company, Adomni, they're like Uber or Airbnb, but billboards. They don't own the billboards, but they have the hosts and the guests, right? Uber doesn't own the cars, but they're the platform that does the ride sharing. So for the billboards, I said, well, what's your plan? He said, well, we're going to create a video and we're going to run Facebook ads and we're going to run them in this area and hope that the billboard owners see the Facebook ads and then they contact us, right? I said, okay, that's fine. How much are you going to spend running these Facebook ads? They said about $20,000 over the next like 3 months. We're going to run Facebook ads and try and target these billboard owners. And I'm just going, how many of you, when you're scrolling through Facebook, you really love paying attention to the ads? Or how many of you just skip them and scroll through them? We don't love advertisements, right? So instead we came up with an idea. This was 10 years ago and it was a little more novel, but I said, you have $20,000 to do this. I said, we're going to buy 10 iPad minis. So we bought 10 iPads and then we hired someone to make these little cases that look like a billboard, right? It's got the stand and then the iPad sits on top. And we put the little logo for the company of the guy we're reaching out to that owns them. We put those on the bottom of the iPad. And we had someone hand deliver in a gift box this iPad to the desk of the person that owns the billboards. And then on it, when he opens it up, the owner of our company said, hey, my name's Jonathan Guy. I'm the CEO of Adomni, and I want to meet with you because if we onboard your billboards, you're going to make about $300,000 more this year by using our company. No changes to your business. Guess what? We got a few meetings set up and we got a few people converted that way. And within a few months, we had all the billboards in Vegas. Every single owner, we had that. And so I would challenge you, this goes to the more virality stuff, but I would challenge you to think a little differently and don't just do the most common marketing. I think we're at a tipping point, and this is getting a little philosophical, but I've seen the internet change and I study user behavior on why people share things, right? What makes things go viral. I think we're a little bit at a tipping point for digital apathy where people are, yes, they're consuming lots of things online, but they're kind of tired of online advertisements and screens and things like that. And I think you're going to see a lot more effectiveness if you kind of circle back towards the in-person traditional sales efforts. And so no matter what you're doing, and those are also good because those are some of the things that you can do with just your own time. It doesn't cost you money to run ads, to create content. So I'm not saying ignore digital. I'm not. But I am saying do not ignore in-person activities because those are some of the very best things for customer acquisition. Virality, the word viral and what makes something go viral, when we think of it nowadays, we just think of like a video that's funny and it went viral and everyone's watching it, right? Or how many of you guys have seen the Coldplay, couple that was having the affair, the CEO, right? It went viral. People are talking about it. Another word for viral is remarkable. The word remarkable, it means worth making a remark about. It's worth talking about, right? So if something's viral or remarkable, it's worth talking about, it's worth sharing. The only difference now is we have all these digital platforms and tools that we share things, but we've been sharing things via word of mouth for thousands of years. We share things at dinner. We share things with our family, our friends. We talk to people. Did you see this down the road? Oh my gosh, oh, I went to, Kiku and had a great steak and it was amazing. You should go to Kiku, right? It's word of mouth. The only difference is now we have more tools to share. It's easier to share. But the principle of why we share, that still hasn't changed. So the content needs to be there. So all over the place on that answer, but yes, your things could be digital, they could be physical. It's whatever activities work best. And I think the best is just start doing them and see which ones are scaling and which ones are benefiting your business the most. Okay, 2 more questions and then we'll go into a couple things on virality. Anyone else? This is your chance to ask about your specific business if you want.
Can I ask?
Yep.
Hello, I'm Sophia, and I'm an interior designer. And I think for me, scalability, I mean, I want to be really scalable, but I understand also I have a bit of a problem because me as an interior designer and as an artist, like it's something that is based on talent and something that is based on specific view. Let's say it's based on taste also. And that's why actually I'm also into tech, because I'm thinking about a platform. But in the sphere of interior design, I'm also a bit confused of how can I be really scalable, but I want to maintain also my identity, my style.
Yep. That one's easy for me. I can give a very quick answer because I've thought about this for a long time. So my wife does interior design and I love it too. We both love style and homes and things. So my wife was same thing. It's all based on your views, your talent, right? You're the designer. How can you scale yourself without just cloning yourself? Have you heard of McGee & Co? Shay McGee? So you have to check out McGee & Co. And let me see if I can spell it right in the comments. And she also does a design show on Netflix.
Okay, I will check. Thank you.
A lot of the houses are actually in Utah, Idaho, where I live. And we used one of the same architects for a house we built as the ones on the Netflix show. So one thing she's done amazingly, if you want to talk about scaling, yes, to hire her as your interior designer, it's only one person. But she started creating furniture that she really liked and that she would recommend using in people's homes. Now she has an entire furniture line that's at a huge store called Target in the United States. And so she makes millions and millions off of furniture. And that was one thing she took her design talents and interior design and started making. Another thing she did was she did digital lookbooks. And so, people she couldn't go visit every home or do the design, but on a room by room basis, she'll charge a fee where you can just do a digital design of one room. Another thing that she did was she did a TV show. That's one way to scale your business and to reach more people. And another thing is now I bet she has way over 100 employees. And so she's taught her design principles to her company, right? She made systems and procedures on how we do McGee & Co. design. And so now all of the designers and interior designers and people that help her inside her business, they're trained on her design method. And so if you want to hire McGee & Co. as an interior designer, great. You're going to get a McGee & Co. type design because it's based on her model. So she was able to scale herself. She was able to scale herself to hundreds of interior designers. And she's written books, TV shows, furniture. I mean, There's a lot of ways. So yes, even from an artistic side of things, there are ways to scale creativity and individuality. And so you just have to kind of, yeah, think about what's a way that we could do this where it doesn't require me at all times. And that's where you get creative and start thinking. That's how businesses scale. It's the only way to scale. If it relied on Jeff Bezos selling books, himself, Amazon wouldn't exist. And if Steve Jobs had to sell phones by himself, it wouldn't exist. But they said, what are the processes or ways to do that without me physically doing it? And that's where your creativity and your design can actually shine and flourish, because you can, create that trajectory. Viral equity plus challenge. What does that mean? A day.
Yeah, I was thinking of, there's a company called Blowfly Beer in Australia, and they basically said you buy the beer and you become a shareholder, and the more you drink, the more you own. And you have an American dream. The Australian dream is to own your own brewery.
Yeah.
And they said you could own a bit of your own brewery before you die. And I was thinking, I've got a marketplace, so it's going to be magazine and directory for adventures, challenges, and escapes. The big thing, the businesses all said we love the idea. How much traffic have you got? And we go, we don't know yet. And I was just thinking, I need some help. And I just thought, well, if we gave 50 people free shares, nominal value £1, and thanks for your share. Can you do this month? I'm just thinking about it.
The last part cut out, but I understand what you're saying. And so maybe that brings us to a good point. I'll share a couple little tidbits on the viral marketing side as just a gift for everyone here, to just think about some ways to do your business. So, a lot of businesses would come to us and they would say, we want you to make us go viral. That's what we do, right? We take a business and we make a viral video, and it goes millions and hundreds of millions of views all around the world. And then everyone knows about them and everyone clicks on the link and buys their product. It's not the only way, and it's not the first way. True virality is a very simple, easy result of having something so different, so valuable, unique, that people want to share it. The virality is just making it easier, right? So a viral video, it's easier to share than me simply telling one person via word of mouth about a product that's really great and then hoping that they share it and they share it and they share it. But it really does come down to the product. And so you can't force something to go viral necessarily without hundreds of millions of dollars. Companies used to do this, right? If you had the most money, you could disrupt the most people. And so therefore you could win the market. Coca-Cola could just buy the market because they forced their brand to be in front of so many people. And nowadays, we live in this flooded world. You can't just buy your way into it. Because, for instance, Coca-Cola, let's say they spend $1 million on a commercial on TV, but not one person talks about it or shares it. They might have had 1 million people see it because they paid for it to be forced in front of 1 million people. But if not one person shares it, what's the value? They have to spend another $1 million to reach another 1 million people, and it kind of stops there. On the inverse is you could spend $100 to put something in front of 100 people. But if, let's say, out of the 100 people, 30 of them share it, and then out of the 30 people that share it to their network, then 30% share it again and again and again and again and again. That's where something goes viral, and it's powerful. But that has to do with your product being remarkable, unique. You need to focus on what's the virality or what's remarkable about our product. Then the content is easy, right? It will share more from there. So for instance, let's just go back to the food app, right? And it was kind of a joke, but also kind of serious about What if you were able to let the customers give themselves a tip, right? Let's say they clean up the table, 3% tip. They leave within 30 minutes of their meal, they get another 3 or 5% tip. That's kind of viral. That's remarkable. It's different, right? In a world where everyone's complaining about leaving a tip when they don't feel like the person deserves it, I want to give myself the tip. Every store is self-checkout. Why don't I pay myself? Because I'm doing the work, right? So that's just different. It's remarkable. One that I'll do to kind of wrap up because it demonstrates really well. I'm going to leave the name of it here, but some of you may have seen this. It's called The Purple Cow Theory by Seth Godin. How many people have heard of the purple cow theory? Okay, I'll give the 1-minute explanation. And then if you haven't, there's a TED Talk video. There's also a book called The Purple Cow. Both are very good. And I think they have to do with kind of this scalability in marketing or having things that go viral. There's a lot of experts, but he's one that I really enjoy and trust. So the purple cow theory is this. Imagine you're driving on the road out to Orhe, and you want to show friends and family the beautiful countryside, and you drive this route all the time. But as you're driving out there on the side of the road, you see a field of cows, but it's just not regular cows. One of these cows is bright purple. Okay, the color purple. What do? Do you pull over? Do you take a picture of it? Do you send your friends and photos of the picture? When you get to where you're going, you say, oh my gosh, on the way here, we saw this bright purple cow. Okay, it's just a cow. You see cows every day if you drive out to the countryside. But this one was different, right? It was purple. And so sometimes it's just thinking about what's something that is different. Everyone's always trying to think of something different, and we want to be different. It's hard to be different in today's economy, right? It seems like everything's been done at some level. Everyone's done something, everything's happened in some way, yet we still find things that are remarkable. We still find things that stand out, and it's something we're constantly seeking. So when you think about your business, think about what could that be? And sometimes maybe you need to be more specific, like maybe for the better together or the barter, maybe it's the same principle, but it's only about shoes, right? It's people that trade shoes with other people. Okay. You get more specific, and I'm not saying that's what it is, but you almost do have to be so specific in today's economy to stand out, right? Maybe you're not the best restaurant app for all restaurants. Maybe you are the best restaurant app only for coffee shops, right? That's it. No other restaurants, just coffee shops. We're the best self-order, pay for coffee shops. And that can stand out a little more. It's a little more remarkable. It's a little easier to remember. So that's one challenge, is even if you don't go super specific, that would be one more challenge, is think about your business and maybe think of like 10 different angles of if we were super specific and we only served one audience, who would that be? And maybe you start there and then you generalize and go from there. Maybe for interior design, you are the best interior designer for pet stores. I don't know, right? But like, how many interior designers out there are experts at pet stores? Probably none. And so that would stand out. And maybe you could be the very best in the world at interior design for pet stores, right? Not saying that's the answer, but challenge yourself to think more specific, and you'll find it easier for people to pay attention to you. So, okay, I'm sensing that we are brain overload, and I'm about to lose my voice because I've been rambling so much. But I love you guys, and I love what you're doing in Moldova. I'm a huge fan. I always try and come visit whenever I can. And so hopefully I'll have a chance to come speak at another event or come over to meet more of you in person. But best of luck with your businesses. I hope you can take some of the The simple things. Again, don't overcomplicate it. We want your business to be simple. I want your homework to be simple, because business should be fun and rewarding and fulfilling. And I will just end with kind of a final testimony that if you simplify your business and you take the time to create some processes and some structure and you think about your goals, you know the island that you're going to. I'll end with one last thing. I always say that, but I will. This is something that's been a good memory for me when I put it into a story. So imagine you're in the middle of the ocean and you're on a life raft. Okay. You're lost at sea. And you're trying to paddle and find where to go. If you saw an island ahead of you, how motivated would you be to row your boat and to get to that island, right? Pretty motivated. Now, if you looked around you and all you could see was water in every direction, there's no land, you don't have any land, anywhere to go, how motivated are you after a while to keep rowing? You lose energy, you lose focus, you lose, the excitement of it, because you don't have a direction. You don't know where you're going. And so when it comes to setting goals or creating structure here, I've been through businesses that were so hard and so stormy. Think of like rowing your boat through the storm, and I'm getting knocked off the boat and I have to climb back on, and the wind's blowing and it's raining and there's lightning and there's sharks, but I can see the island. And as long as I can see the island and know where I'm rowing to and I have that purpose, I can keep doing it. Systems and stuff are the same for you. So think of those end goals like your island. And then once you figure that out, all the stuff along the way, you can get through it, but you know that there's a finish line and you have a purpose. But do not run your startups without structure, without a finish line, without a purpose. You'll get emotionally burned out and you'll get really discouraged, okay? So, awesome. See you guys next time. Giannina, I'll turn it over to you if there's anything else to wrap up. She's on mute. Oh, she was in the toilet maybe, huh? Just kidding.
She's actually at another event. So she does 2 events at the same time. But I think she can now.
Oh, sorry. I talk with my mic off. So I have another event here in my back. So thanks a lot, Cameron. I just was running from an event from another. So if you have another questions for Cameron, please put them to Cameron. If no, I think he could be open to you to share his LinkedIn or email address. And if you need some advices, maybe he can help you.
I just put my email
he already
in
did
the
it.
chat. So
Yeah.
That's my gift. Don't abuse it. Don't give it to other people outside of this group, please. But
yes.
But if you have a specific question, I'll do my best to respond in a timely manner when we're able to, if I can give feedback on something specific. So.
Yeah, sure. Here, as I see in chat, is one more question from Alexandru.
I would do your goals first. I would think of what's even the reason that you're doing a business. When I talk about that island that you're going towards, right? It's not even enough maybe to just even have like a money goal. But for me, it's like, what am I going to do with my money goal? So for me, it was this. This is my property. I live up in the mountains, and I have lots of acres up here, and it's private and peaceful, and it's where I wanted to have my kids and raise my kids. And so it wasn't just I want to earn this much money. It was I want to do that because I want to live in this specific place and I want to do these specific activities. And on the day to day, when I'm having a hard time and I don't feel like working, no one feels like working unless you have like something that you're working towards. So something for ADHD, especially, and entrepreneurs, figure out the personal reason or the personal goal, and it's so much easier to get there. If you're just doing it for numbers and metrics and quarterly this and that, you'll hate it and you'll just be really depressed and not happy. So figure out your personal reason and then match that with your business goals. And then that will give you the thing, but goals first, and and then start doing your SOPs and creating activities. And that's what you should be doing as a founder, is leading the strategy on what activities and what SOPs, and then changing and refining them so that they work better. It's a constant process over and over.
Okay, thanks a lot, Cameron.
Yep.
So I think that could be a wrap up for today's session for the scalability ones. If you want to, we will see with you guys tomorrow. We'll have the finance operation session. And thank you, Cameron, for being with us, for sharing your experience, and being part of DreamUp's community experts. We
Happy
are
to
totally proud to have you in our team.
Awesome. Well, I'll go to Andy's Pizza next time I'm there.
Yes, we are waiting for you in Moldova.
Sounds
See you.
good. See
So
you all.
guys,
Bye.
see you tomorrow. Just need to keep building and working. Bye bye. Have a good evening.